Hi, how long have you been here? Do you see me? I can see you too. But okay, you don't want to talk, although we could have spent very nice time sitting and staring at each other until we get tired, but you possibly want me to help you to get to the other side, right? You young men always search for adventures. I can understand that. I also was young. Can you imagine that? Yeah, I think I can help you. But first you have to help me. You see, I am an old lady. I'm weak. And I need assistance. This oven sometimes needs to be cleaned. The ashes must be removed. I would appreciate some help. It's a bit complicated. You'll have to dive into the oven, but it's fine. You're big and brave and strong and young, of course, and I will assist you. Of course I will. It's my oven. I told you that the degree of insanity was growing. I basically promised you. So I'm sitting here as Baba Yaga. It seems quite natural to me because for today's makeup I just needed to be myself and look a bit as if I am already dead, and I think I'm very good at that. And what I also did, I brushed my hair. Normally I brush my hair only in the shower with the conditioner, so good job, Anna. If there was a school theater group, they would hire me. You cannot really hire a person to the school theater group, right? But okay. Moin moin, dear people. Welcome to this channel. This is Anna of Northern Germany, a survivor, a fighter, a writer, originally from Russia, born in Russia, raised in Russia, and then I fled first to France, then to Germany, where I have been living for 2 years already, and recently I got my documents finally. I was an asylum seeker, then now I am a refugee, and I'm writing 2 novels. I have a political-ish blog, and I'm making videos where I'm going crazy. And you're very welcome to go crazy with me. I'm not going crazy always. Usually I'm talking about mental awareness and about literature and about my life. So if you watched my previous videos, in October I had the month of the witch, and the month of the witch is going to be over very soon. I'm very sad because I feel very natural in this amplitude, but it is what it is. Every day is the day of the witch, right? And you're very welcome to watch my other videos from the month of the witch, and I will leave the links to them. And today it's a special day because I'm going to talk about the Slavic folklore, and Slavic folklore is also one of my passions. I enjoy listening to lectures about Slavic folklore, about fairy tales, about traditions, about superstitions, and today I want to share it with you, to share my knowledge and why it is important, because it's Halloween. Halloween is a Western tradition in Russia, and also I cannot say about Ukraine and other countries, but in Russia we don't celebrate Halloween. Yet, Russians are very superstitious. They live in a spiritual world, and it's quite a strange cocktail because first we were pagans, then we were Christians, but also pagans altogether, and then there was the USSR, and we were atheists. And it is what it is, so let's look into it. If you think that I look more like a gypsy or Jack Sparrow, that's also fine. They are also great. But let's talk about the Slavic folklore. Halloween has always attracted me by its atmosphere because all these monsters and all these movies and all these stories, somehow they were cozy for me. And of course, I also had Russian traditions and Slavic traditions. And yeah, in Russia we don't celebrate Halloween. Instead, what we do before Christmas or before Epiphany, the veil between the world of the people alive and the dead people is very thin. That's why you can tell the fortune, usually find out who is going to be your future husband, of course, and also what children do. They go from one door to another and they ask for sweets, they sing chants, and if they don't get anything, they're allowed to bring some trouble to a household. For example, yeah, some small mischief. They're allowed to do some small mischief, for example, to drop some dirt on the rug, I don't know. Maybe it's not the best example. I don't know if you watched one of my short videos about Halloween in Russia, where I told the story what happened to people from my university from the years before when they celebrated Halloween. I will also link that. So yeah, Halloween is ungodly, is considered ungodly in Russia. And again, I will talk about Russia because it's my homeland. And sometimes I will touch upon Ukraine because in the place where I used to live, Ukraine is very, very close. Despite the fact that Halloween is hated and demonized, especially these days, Russian people are pretty superstitious, and the church throughout the years tried to do everything to eradicate that, but they failed. And it also happens in many cultures that paganism and Christianity entangle together and even cooperate, and they create the culture. And the same happened in Russia. Historically, peoples on this territory where Russia is situated now, and yeah, Ukraine too, they were, of course, pagans, and there were many small kingdoms, and this place was ruled by Knyaz Vladimir. Knyaz is like the title, it's like kind of prince, king, so yeah, very important guy. And he was the leader of this territory, and he was also a pagan. He had several wives, but then he reached his, I don't know, middle age crisis, and he decided that his life is moving in the wrong direction. At that moment, yeah, as always, modern problems need modern solutions and modern religion. And he decided that, yeah, it would be a good idea to baptize himself, and he baptized himself into the religion of the Byzantine Empire. And why it happened? Because he looked around, he checked it out, and he thought that in this particular empire, the temples were the richest and the most beautiful. And he decided that it's going to be the religion of his country. So he baptized himself, and then he forcibly baptized people. All their totems were thrown away, and people were announced that now they believe in one God. Of course, they didn't like that, of course. And the tradition of this religion stayed in our roots. They continued doing their small rituals parallel to Christianity. And they saw no contradictions. The church, of course, saw contradictions, but it was just impossible to fight that because, okay, what can you do? And often local priests, they had to reach the compromise with the citizens, with the locals, because, for example, in one of the lectures that I listened to by the experts in the Slavic folklore, they told one story about the village, and there was one priest, one major priest in the church, and there was the tradition for the rich harvest. Young girls needed to roll the priest in the hay, and there was one priest who agreed for that, then he died, then there was another priest and he disagreed, and as the result, in the next season the harvest was ruined. It was like total crap, and people were very angry. That's why the authorities had to negotiate with the priest and to say just, yeah, it's not a big trouble for you, just let the girls throw you in the hay. People in Middle Ages and their fun activities. The Slavs, they believed in their own spirits, and every space had a guard, had a spirit in it. For example, the forest was inhabited and was ruled by Leshiy. It's like the spirit of the forest, because les means forest in Russian. And he is, if we believe that he exists, or it, wasn't that dangerous, was a bit mischievous. You could have ended up in a swamp because you frequently lost your way, because Leshiy was playing with you. But it was really easy to outwit him, if you just take your shoes and you switch your shoes, like you put your right shoe on your left foot and vice versa. And there is also the spirit of the house, which is called Domovoy. And this is very funny because I think Domovoy is something that people still believe in. And Domovoy can be a positive character or a negative character. It depends on your relationships with Domovoy. If you take care of your house, Domovoy likes you. And that's why also, if you have a good Domovoy in your house, when you move to another house, you're supposed to take your Domovoy along. And if some things disappear in your house, that means that Domovoy is playing with them. And you can ask Domovoy, Domovoy, you have played enough, can you please give it back? And what is interesting, I don't think you will be able to find this book because I think it's not translated, but we even have a relatively modern fairy tale which is called Little Domovoy Kuzka. It was written by Tatiana Alexandrova in 1977, so relatively new. Water was inhabited, and the king of water was Vodyanoy. But I don't really care about Vodyanoy, but mermaids. I like this romantic figure of a Slavic mermaid, because Slavic mermaid is different from mermaids in the European culture, because Slavic mermaids, they don't have tails, and they are usually young women, beautiful women who drowned, and they usually spend their time sitting on the branches, mostly in the night, and brushing their hair. They want, of course, to drag the attractive men to have fun with them. But yeah, it's not that they're very, very extremely dangerous, and mostly their entertainment is to tickle. This is so sweet. To tickle. Oh my god. If you want a recommendation of a book, Nikolai Gogol, Evenings on a Farm near Dikainka. Some of the stories are hilarious, some of them are very disturbing, and of course attitude towards women is, well, peculiar, let's put it that way. Nikolai Gogol is a Ukrainian author, and yeah, he's quite specific. If you're interested in the Slavic folklore and you want to start with something, you can start with this book. There are some funny stories, there are characters of the Slavic folklore, and there are some legends. The action is taking place in his home village, as far as I remember, in Ukraine. Another character, also a female character, this one is terrible, Kikimora Bolotnaya. Bolotnaya, bolota means a swamp. So this is a creature that lives in the swamp, an unpleasant one, but she, who is she? She is either an unbaptized child or the child who wasn't baptized, you see, so Christianity and paganism, or a daughter who was condemned or cursed by her own mother. This is horrible. This is horrible. And the stories, they are so profound. They are so, so deep, deep into the roots of the culture. And yeah, in small details, they exist in everyday life. And they were passed to us via fairy tales. And the problem with the fairy tales is that they were told orally. And the original stories are frequently lost. But yeah, I'm sitting here as Baba Yaga. And I think Baba Yaga is known to be as a Slavic/Russian witch, as a witchy figure. And I heard it from people who are rather Western culture representatives. And yeah, Baba Yaga is actually a bit different. She's not exactly a witch. She is a creature, and she is likely a dead creature. But she has quite prominent features of a woman. So breasts, huge breasts, and when she is described, she is in this house on this chicken legs, which is apparently it is a coffin. So she is lying in the coffin, in a small coffin. That's why her body is overtaking the whole space. How can we know that she is dead? Because she is described with a bony leg. So she's basically a skeleton, not a skeleton. And her task is to coach, so to say, young men. Usually they have this initiation ritual, and they are usually brutal. If you know about folklore, all these initiation rituals, because people smoked heavily or parts of their bodies were cut. So the idea of an initiational ritual is that you are at the edge of the life and death, and the heroes of the Slavic fables, they need to make a circle, they need to go to the other side, and the border to the other side is guarded by Baba Yaga. And sometimes she helps them, sometimes when they steal something from her, she chases them And I find it logical because, isn't it logical? You face the consequences. But mostly she even helped, she assisted them. She showed them the way to the other side. Then they usually had to slay some monster, Garinich, serpent, Zmei, serpent Garinich. And then they necessarily needed to return to complete the circle, to return to the real life. And this is very interesting because in the lectures, what I heard, men usually complete the circle, but women in fairy tales, because they also exist, they make only the way there, because they're usually searching for their love who is lost, and they make the way only to their love, because in the tradition the woman died officially for her family when she got married. And I found it very interesting, of course, fascinating even, but also very, very sad. And those are not only fairy tales that carry this wisdom, these beliefs of the past. We also have these local stories, local fables that are passed from one generation to another, or it's passed in the form, I saw that, you believe me. Of course, I saw the devil. You believe me? Of course you believe me. I believe you, you believe me. We are both serious people. Why would I lie to you? Of course not. I am Baba Yaga. Why would I lie to you? I'm a serious person. You are a serious person. Or I could also say, I know Baba Yaga. Would you believe me? I also heard curious stories of these local fables, as for example, if you hang your broom, it's not exactly a broom. In Russia we call it venik, it looks like this. And if you hang it upside down, a sorcerer can't enter your house. And one girl, she just decided to play a joke. She heard that some of the workers at her office was a sorcerer, so she just decided to do that, and she hung this broom upside down. And she wasn't fired, but the boss, it was the boss or some worker, he asked her not to do that ever again because he couldn't enter the building. Interesting, right? Slavic countries, or at least Russia, because yeah, I don't want to speak for other Slavic countries, but our traditions or our small beliefs, our small actions, they're actually very funny when I think about it, how it was born in the course of the development of the country, of people of the country, or the people of the tribe, if we go to the origins. And of course, still people, like real life people, they do interesting things. I think I'm losing my culture a bit from this point of view, because I don't follow the traditions. For example, we had this tradition in my family. Always before leaving the house, we needed to sit down and spend like a minute just sitting, and then only we left. And I have just realized that it's been 3 years since I did that one last time, and I am glad. I think I'm very thankful that that was my last time, because this tradition irritated me so much. I don't know why, I cannot explain that, but it made me so angry, so irritated when every time before leaving, we had to sit down, and I was just thinking, can't we just leave, please? But to sit down means to bring the good luck on the way, or to attract the good luck to yourself on your way, wherever you're going. A short word about the sad topic, and this topic is witch trials, and I was a bit astonished, surprised by the fact that actually witch trials existed in Russia. And this is, of course, very naive from my point of view to believe that there were no witch trials in the Russian Empire, for example, because, yeah, we, of course, in Russia study a bit the witch trials that took place in Europe and in America. But about Russia, we don't study. And I did the research, and in the city which is called Pskov, in 1411, 12 witches were burned because it was believed that they sent the plague upon the city. Amazing. Or, for example, Ivan the Terrible, but, well, the name speaks for himself, right? And in 1575, he burned 15 witches. Then it also happened when the Romanovs were already at power, and that was quite recently, because recently we celebrated 300 years of the Romanovs' reign, and it happened in 1647, and 16 people, by people I mean women and also men, who were accused of witchcraft were condemned to death. And it still happened in the times of Peter I, and Peter I was known as a very modern person who carved the window to Europe for Russia, and he was actually inspired by the military rules of Sweden. And eventually it also led to kind of witch trials, or trials of people who were accused in witchcraft. This topic is actually hilarious. I found interesting stories. For example, one story, it was in 1635, wild times. A lady asked another lady to get some kind of herbs that would make her husband treat her well. Eventually, everyone was exiled. And by everyone, I literally mean everyone. The woman, the witch, and the husbands of both women. Incredible. If you're curious, I can dig into this topic and I can make some kind of video. I don't know if it's going to be fun, but yeah, you're free to write into the comments. And I think I will go have my dinner because I'm very tired already. I just want to make a conclusion. Despite the fact that we don't celebrate Halloween, still Russian people are very superstitious, and the authorities throughout the years, in the course of time, were constantly trying to force their beliefs on the people of the Russian Empire, of the USSR, and of the Russian Federation these days too. And first it was, you must believe in one God, then it was, you must believe in no God at all, and now, well, Putin's propaganda. And it resulted in people being very easily influenced, and I find it very sad, because at the point when the stakes are high and when something tragic happens, people are used. people are prone to propaganda. Or, for example, in the 90s, there was an outburst of charlatans and fake magicians who, I don't know, some of them were quite harmless and they bent spoons through the TV, but some of them were quite dangerous because they promised people who lost their children, for example, in Beslan, and this is a very sad story. I think I mentioned it in one of my articles, and I also linked one Russian documentary. If someone is interested in digging into this topic, investigating, but it's a very, very tragic page of the Russian history, and there was one person who promised people to bring their children or relatives back to life. So yeah, I think it's our culture and we need to enjoy it, we need to accept it, appreciate it, and I just want nobody to be forced, of course. And yeah, that was the Russian folklore story. I hope you enjoyed it. And tell me what you think. Are you from a Slavic country, or maybe you know something interesting? Because I like interesting facts. I like folklore in general, because the folklore is you. This is how you were brought up. This is what you are, actually, what people, your ancestors, believed in. And this is fascinating. And yeah, I wish you to never to be forced to believe into anything and to be free in mind. And I wish you a wonderful evening, day or night or morning or whatever. And also I wish you love, love and peace, peace from Anna of Northern Germany. I announced that the season of the witch is over. Tschüss.